Good morning, friends of the East Side Legal Assistance Program. Give yourselves a round of applause for suiting up and showing up early on a weekday morning at the Breakfast for Justice. Oh my goodness. Y'all look great this morning, just fresh as a spring flower. My name is Sasha Summer Cusino. I use she, her pronouns, and I am honored to be serving as your MC. Now, everybody within the sound of my voice, give me one clap. Everybody within the sound of my voice, give me two claps. Oh, that's the focus we're looking for. That's the ticket. I like it. I like it. So happy we're here. We're caffeinated. We're attentive because we are gathered for a really good reason. We are here to honor our shared commitment to civil legal aid. You can make a lot of noise for that. Yes, you can. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yes. We are kicking off our day with a bang, y'all. We are getting caffeinated and we are joining forces and rising together for justice. Now, before we get started, I want to thank you for your kind attention. I like to set the intention for the day. I like to make sure we are grounded in space and place. And so with that, I'd like to acknowledge the land that we are so fortunate to gather on today. ELAP works throughout King County. I would like to acknowledge that King County is the traditional land of the Duwamish tribe and other Coast Salish people, as well as home of the Muckleshoot and Snoqualmie tribes. We recognize them and honor them with gratitude for their stewardship of this land where we get to live, work, and play. So thank you so much for your stewardship. All right, look at you all. You're ready. You're ready to do this. You're here to support ELAP. I love it. I just got you to quiet, but guess what? I am going to ask you to make some noise. So I'm assuming you're like me and you're on your second cup of caffeine this morning. I want to see this community we built. So let's just check out who's here. If you hear a group that you belong to, I want you to make some noise. You can clap, you can hoot, you can holler, you can stomp a foot, you can snap, whatever makes you feel good. But let's hear it from our attorneys and legal professionals. Make some noise. Oh, hello, welcome. Yes, so happy you're here. All right. Don't be shy. We want to hear from judges and clerks. Where you at? Where you at? Judges and clerks. Make some noise. Okay. So you're a demure crowd, but that's okay. We appreciate your energy. All right. How about our fellow friends in the nonprofit sector? Do you work in a nonprofit? Are you one of our partners in the field? Make some noise. Beautiful. How about government employees, civil servants, and elected officials? Are you here? Let's hear from you. Okay, there you are. You're looking good. Thanks for your energy. Okay. Now, I think this last one, a lot of people might be able to respond to. How about, are you one of the following? Are you a community member, a donor, an ELAP supporter? If you are, make a lot of noise. Oh, wow. Okay, there you are. Hello. Good morning. Well, thank you. You all are at the heart of everything that ELAP does. You know, we come from different small groups, but we all have one thing in common. We are the backbone of ELAP's work. So we come together as a community, even though we are different pieces of this puzzle. And what we do when we come together and we flex our community strength is we make sure that neighbors who are facing life-altering hurdles, they don't have to do that alone. They have a community that backs them. So we're very, very happy and that you're here, and we have a great program in store for you. So what are we going to do here together today? Well, you're going to get a glimpse of some of ELAP's work and their impact. You're going to hear from the staff about some of the difficult but powerful work that they've been doing to support housing. We're also going to hear from a recent client who sought ELAP's help. I can speak, Sasha speaks, take two, as she fled from domestic violence. So you're going to hear that powerful story. You also have a tremendous keynote speaker ahead of you. You get to hear from King County District Court Judge Andrea Jarmon. Make some noise for that. We're so happy you're here. Thank you. And once again, I just want to emphasize, You are the key ingredient to this morning. You are what makes all this work possible. This breakfast is ELAP's largest annual fundraising campaign, and it's so wonderful that we have this space where we can come together and put our values into action. As I mentioned, we're going to be investing in civil legal aid, and this is, as we know, a vital resource so that our King County friends, families, community members don't have to face life-altering hurdles alone. We have an ambitious goal. Yes, we do. But I look at this crowd and I say, you're ambitious people. So what are we going to achieve here together this morning? Are you ready for it? If you are, say yes, Sasha. I knew you would be. I'm so glad I asked. All right, so what we're going to do together today, we're going to raise $225,000 for ELAP this morning. Yes, you can applaud that because we're about to do some good work for an amazing organization doing work we need them to do. And when we do this, when we achieve this, this is funding needed to protect survivors, prevent homelessness, and build community resilience. And guess what, my friends? We are already off to a powerful start, thanks to some folks who couldn't be here, who already gave their gifts and sponsors and whatnot. Let's take a look at our fundraising progress so far. Oh my gosh, look at that. We already have almost $125,000 raised. That is good. That's a great start. So again, we're going to raise $225,000 for ELAP with this event. So stay tuned, more on that soon. Now, my friends, let's settle into our meals. Let's settle into this program. It is my honor to introduce someone who has been a cornerstone of this organization for over a decade. Throughout his tenure, he has been a steady leader who knows the complexities of civil legal aid inside and out. He's also someone who leads from the heart. You see him. Here he comes. He's coming to the stage right now. Please welcome ELAP's Executive Director, Jerry Crone.
Thank you, Sasha. Yeah, it's been over 10 years. Can't believe it. I know. A lot of good things have happened in 10 years, which I, as the executive director, I take full responsibility for all the good things that have happened. Few things that I have to take responsibility for, too. When I took over, gas was $2.43 a gallon. So I own that. I really do. Anyway. The reason I'm up here is to thank people, thank sponsors, and to thank the folks that work with us every day. So first, I'd like to thank our premier sponsor, Perkins Coie. Our other premier sponsor is Microsoft, Amazon, and Morrison Foerster. Our sustaining sponsors, Safarth and T-Mobile. So one last round of applause just for all the sponsors that we have here today. Thank you very much. We can't fill the room without table captains. Our goal here, as Sasha mentioned, is to raise $225,000. And our table captains and our virtual fundraising captains are the folks that lead the way, that get you here in the morning. And so I want to thank them. A big part of our work that we do each year is funded through public funding, and we can't do it without the elected officials who stick up for us, who fight for us. When budgets get tight, they still come through for us. And so I want to thank our elected officials. If you'll stand, please. Go ahead, stand up. The other group that works with us on an ongoing basis, and some of which have been with us for a really, really long time, is our board of directors. So if they'd please stand up and be recognized. So we are one of the 15 volunteer legal programs throughout the state of Washington. And we can't do this work without volunteers. And so there's probably everybody in this room has volunteered at some point in time for us. But if you have, just raise your hand. If you've been a volunteer, raise your hand. Look at this. This is amazing. And of course, lastly, I get to thank our staff. Stand up, staff. No, stand up. You got to stand up. You know, day in, day out, they're the ones that are on the front line. You know our mission. You know why we're here today is to raise money. So please enjoy the program and keep us in mind. Also, if you haven't bought a raffle ticket yet, this is a new thing for us. We're doing this raffle. So if you haven't bought a raffle ticket yet, there's an opportunity to go over there, buy a raffle ticket. I admit one of them I'm a little involved in, which is a weekend on Whidbey Island, and then we're all going to go out to dinner at one of my favorite restaurants on Whidbey Island. And so buy a raffle ticket. Hopefully someone will win, enjoys Whidbey, enjoys good food at the Front Street Grill in Coopville. But other than that, enjoy yourself. Thank you very much.
Keep it going for our executive director. Thank you, Jerry. Oh, it is always so grounding to hear about the people behind the scenes who make this mission a reality. And looking around, I mean, it was wonderful to see even more deeply who is part of this community. And I'm so impressed by the depth of experience and heart in this room. So thank you again for being here. There's a real sense of purpose this morning, and I'm so proud to be part of it. So with that, our next speaker is part of ELAP's Housing Stability Program, which works with low-income tenants and families in King County to prevent eviction and homelessness. Please welcome now to the stage one of ELAP's staff attorneys, Andrea Seymoure.
Good morning. It's wonderful to see you all here today. I'm proud to be an attorney in ELAP's Housing Stability Program. I actually first came to ELAP in 2013 as a pro bono attorney in ELAP's family law clinics. I know many of you in this room are volunteers for ELAP. Thank you for your time and energy. As a volunteer attorney, I worked with clients under enormous emotional and financial stress, dealing with custody disputes, separations, protection orders, and parenting issues. They were overwhelmed trying to navigate a complicated legal system while burdened by income, language, mental and physical health barriers, with no idea where to start or what rights they had to their own children, homes, and assets. Now, as a housing attorney, I regularly see how interconnected these issues really are. Housing stability affects every other part of a person's life, including family stability, the ability to care for their children, keep kids in their current school, separate from abusive partners. The loss of housing stability quickly creates ripple effects across employment, education, childcare, safety, and health. And unfortunately, here in King County, that reality is everywhere. Rents have risen faster than wages for many families already living paycheck to paycheck. Even short-term setbacks like a medical bill, injury, layoff, reduction in work hours, a debt dispute can put someone at risk of eviction. As landlords also face rising economic costs, some of them attempt to pass them on to tenants in the form of damage charges, rent increases, late fees, junk fees, refusal to respond to maintenance requests, or complaints about mold and pest infestations. Many tenants lack the time, legal knowledge, English proficiency to dispute these costs without legal assistance from a lawyer. These impacts can snowball. For example, when a landlord withholds a security deposit and charges for repairs that are just normal wear and tear, it can create a debt trap, an unfair debt that follows the tenant around everywhere, causing their next rental application to get denied and make it nearly impossible for them to rent a new home. The people we help every day are really just doing the best they can. The system is just knocking them down at every step. I'm frequently amazed by their resilience and ability to keep putting one foot in front of the other. We recently helped a man recovering from major surgeries with significant physical and mental limitations. He and his disabled adult son were being evicted for non-payment of rent. He'd had his subsidy terminated for failing to respond to his housing authority's request for updated income information. He was overwhelmed and terrified. I was able to go through his ledger and get his property manager to make some corrections. His remaining back rent was because he'd overlooked paying his utilities for the past year while in and out of the hospital. He was on a fixed income and didn't have the savings to pay the back rent. I connected him with rental assistance programs to cover his back utilities and worked with his property manager to get the funds applied. I was able to advise his landlord's attorney to strike his show cause hearing because he'd come current on his rent in time to stop the eviction process. We then appealed his subsidy termination and got it reinstated. This kept him and his son housed with the ability to continue paying their rent moving forward. This is an example of a situation a vulnerable individual would not have been able to navigate without an attorney. I felt really lucky to be in a position to help him and his son, knowing that my help changed their outcome. I love the theme of rising together for justice. Because it brings everyone into ELAP's work. And this is where it happens, in this room, with your generosity. Your financial support is essential to the work that we do every single day. Let's make sure no one has to fight for housing stability alone. Thank you.
Huge round of applause for Andrea, please. Thank you, Andrea. We appreciate you sharing with us about the important work, the hard work that you do every day. Thank you for standing and walking alongside people in our community who need that. We appreciate you. All right. Next, we're going to hear a personal story about ELAP's impact. As you just heard, the legal system can be complex, and it's not designed with the average person in mind. It can really feel like a maze to try to navigate, especially if you're doing that on your own, because you can't afford a lawyer. Add to that other hard circumstances. So add to that the weight of maybe violence or manipulation. Clearly, that's going to make navigating the very complex legal system harder. Add on top of that, you have a child depending on you. So the stakes can be very high, even though you're facing a seriously complex situation. We're about to hear from Christine, somebody who sought ELAP's work and who ELAP walked alongside. So with that, please turn your attention to the video screens.
I had been in an abusive relationship with my husband for years. Not just physically abusive, but mentally, emotionally, psychologically, financially. And there came a turning point where he got physical with myself and almost got physical with my son. That's when I knew that we had to leave. Me and my son fled up here to Washington, where I have family, and left everything, all of our belongings.
Christine had experienced some pretty severe physical and emotional abuse throughout the course of a fairly long relationship. It didn't seem like she felt anyone really believed her that this was happening to her. Important thing for me was to make sure that she felt heard and believed and understood.
Right after we moved, my husband was constantly contacting me and contacting my son. I had to do something to stop him. And so that's when I went and I started the process of a restraining order.
The process of trying to get a protection order, so many people are going through it on their own. And so the legal system tries to make it fairly friendly, but the reality is that it's not really as friendly as it should be, or as friendly as lawmakers think it is.
I went through the process of filling out all this paperwork on my own, and it was so confusing, and I was so emotional. The court system just isn't set up for a normal person that doesn't know the law.
ELAP provides free legal aid to survivors of domestic violence in King County. One of the big challenges about Christine's case was it was a fairly contentious protection order where she had filed for a protection order and then her ex-partner had also filed in retaliation for a protection order. So she was dealing with both trying to get her own protection order and protect her and her child. Both parties had filed hundreds of pages of documents. I think it was just sort of overwhelming. I had to sift through with her and be like, this is the way it works. This is what's important. This is what we need to focus on.
My son's a teenager. He has special needs. He has autism. I think his autism makes him an extraordinary person. My son's biological father passed away when he was 2, so my husband was only his stepdad. I'm his guardian, I'm his custodial parent. My husband had always weaponized my son against me and told me if I ever left him that he would call CPS. He would use every penny he had to get my son taken away from me. That's what kept me stuck in that situation for so many years. But it got to a point where I realized that, you know what, I'm a good mom, I'm not doing anything wrong, and this isn't healthy for my son, so we have to go.
I think the entire time she was clearly deserved a protection order, and he clearly was doing this out of retaliation. And that was one of the big challenges, was just making sure that she understood that just because someone's being loud doesn't mean they're right.
I felt very vulnerable at first when I didn't have a lawyer. And as I'd watch all the other court cases, I noticed that clients that didn't have lawyers, that they weren't really listened to and they weren't heard and they were kind of just pushed through and it went really quick. I felt very safe when I did have Evan. I was heard then.
ELAP's one of the few places that's really doing this kind of work and making a difference in our county. And I think it not only helps the survivors and the clients you're assisting, but it also extends to the rest of your community. You want to ensure that you're living in a county, in a community where this kind of thing isn't happening and that people feel safe and protected.
I can't thank ELAP enough. I mean, the work they do is amazing. They've changed my life. I'm really proud of how far me and my son have come. For the first time in his life, this whole school year, he's gotten all straight A's. It hasn't been easy at times, but it's been worth it. It's been worth every second of it. We've come a long way.
I have so much gratitude to Christine for sharing her story, and also to Evan for walking along. Evan, wave at us. Where are you, Evan? Hello, Evan. Thank you, thank you. Thank you for walking alongside Christine. How fortunate are we that because we've showed up in support of ELAP's work, we also get to walk alongside people who just need a little help, right? A person like Christine who has agency, who has hopes, who has dreams, but just needs a little bit of assistance to get where she knows she needs to go. So, you know, Christine's story is powerful and it's poignant. I'm so sorry to say it is unfortunately not unique. So you might be surprised to learn that almost half of all the people that ELAP serves are women experiencing domestic violence. And it can feel difficult to hear a story like that. I mean, we're faced with big issues every day, right? And it can sometimes feel very overwhelming. Like, I just don't even know where to start. But that's why we start with being in community first, right? Because when we're in community, we can do something so much bigger and bolder than what any of us can do by ourselves. So here we are met, we are gathered. Let's do just that. Let's raise the money we came here to raise in support of ELAP. So I'll remind you, we have a very ambitious goal with this event of raising $225,000. I'm going to talk to you about the how of that first. Don't worry about giving just yet. Hang tight. Keep sipping your coffee and your tea. Hang tight. But I'm going to talk about the how of it. I'm going to talk about maybe some gifts that some folks in this room are able to give and the types of impacts you're supporting. So after we do that little journey together, then we'll get to giving. So hang tight on giving. First, I want to let you know we have a really exciting announcement. So I told you the big goal is $225,000, but we have a little bit more help with that lift, right? Let's see where we're at right now. So last I saw, we were at about 125,000. We have a little bit of help. As soon as we raise $50,000 in this room, that's not the total goal, but as soon as we raise $50,000 in this room, we're going to unlock an additional $20,000 challenge gift. So you can give that a round of applause because that's somebody who couldn't be here today, but said, I want to see you do your best. I want to see you stretch and reach deep and give your most inspired gift. When we get to $50,000, we unlocked another $20,000 towards that big goal. So for some of us, gifts around $2,500 or more are what is doable for us. If you're able to do that, we ask you to do so. That's incredible. When you do that, something that you inspire is 25 hours of legal help at one of ELAP's free legal clinics. Maybe $1,000 is your inspired gift, and that is fantastic. Thank you so much. When you join with a gift like that, the type of work you're supporting, you're helping ELAP ensure a survivor like Christine gets critical legal advice as they seek safety. For some of us, $500 is right sized to our budget, and that is wonderful. Thank you so much. When you give a gift like $500, the type of work you support is ELAP, working with low-income seniors, and to help give free legal help to help create wills and other important end-of-life documents. Let's talk about something really cool. Are you ready for it? $250 or, dun dun dun, $20 a month. Yes, you can break these gifts up monthly. You can be the gift that keeps on giving, and that is so powerful. So if you want to do $250 in one fell swoop, you want to break it up to $20 a month, you can help ELAP provide a free legal consultation for someone facing eviction. Maybe, the fun continues. Maybe you want to give a gift of $100 or break it up monthly to $10 a month. Super, super meaningful. We are so grateful. We are grateful for every gift that you give. A gift like that can help support ELAP's service to seniors and veterans through their free legal clinics. I mentioned monthly donations. Yes, you can give one fell swoop today if that's what you prefer. But if you want to give monthly, that is powerful. It's predictable, stable income. It's, the gift that literally keeps on giving, but it helps ELAP be the strongest, most sustainable community org that they can be. So when we get into the software shortly, I'll get you there. Don't you worry. You can just click the monthly giving button. And new this year, anybody got a DAF, Donor Advised Fund? You can give directly from your donor advised fund this morning. Yes, you can. Once we get you in the software, you will see that. You just pick the amount of your gift, and after that, you can click the button that says donor advised fund. So now that we've done some mindful meditation about the size of our gift, let's go ahead and do what we came to do, and let's get to giving. How are you going to do that? Well, boom. There's a QR code on the screen. There's a QR code on your program. You can click that QR code with your mobile device, and that gets you right on in there. If you're not a QR code person, guess what? We got a link for you. It will show on the screen as well. It's a tiny URL with a /ELAP donate B4J. That's Breakfast for Justice. And if you're an analog girl in a digital world, guess what? We got you. We've got paper and pen technology. Yeah, we do. It's right there on your table. There's a handful of paper donation slips right in the middle of your table. So go ahead and start your most inspired and generous giving. Remember, as soon as we have reached $50,000 raised, meaning we have bumped up from about $125,000 to about $175,000, we unlock an additional $20,000 towards our goal. So I'm going to ask you to be bold, to be ambitious, to be joyful, and to be inspired as you go to that link or that QR code. Let's take a look. Let's just see how things are coming along. I'm going to hop off the stage so I can see better because I want to thank some people. I love being in gratitude with you all. Carly, thank you so much. Jamal, thank you so much. Leslie, thank you, thank you, thank you. The gifts are coming in. We are so grateful. Some of you are shy, but even if you're anonymous, we love you too. Thank you for your generous gifts. Anonymous, anonymous, anonymous. All right, Rebecca, thank you very much. Okay, we're bumping up. We're bumping up. We're almost at 145,000. Remember, we get to 174,000 and we unlock that additional challenge gift. So thank you, Kristen, we appreciate you. Jill, we appreciate you. All right. Now, remember, you can also give via checks. Corporate giving is great if your employer matches. Be sure to tell your employer about the great work you've done. We're going to check this progress again a little later in the program. If you are still donating, do not let me stop you from doing good work. But we are going to start to gear ourselves towards our keynote speaker, and then we'll check back on our fundraising in a little bit. So here we go. Elected to the King County District Court in 2022, she brings a wealth of legal expertise to the bench, from her time as a prosecutor to her work in private practice representing parents in crisis. But it is her own personal journey that truly defines her commitment to justice. Please, 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 let's do ourselves proud as we welcome our keynote speaker to the stage. This is a champion for equity and representation. Please welcome the Honorable Judge Andrea Jarmon. Thank you so much for joining us, Judge Jarmon. We're so honored to have you. Thank you.
Good morning. Now, I want to warn you, if you have been or you know someone who has been a victim or a survivor of violence, parts of what I share may be triggering. Do I have your permission to storytell? They told me when the call was made from the hospital to inform him that I had been born, my father's response was, "So what?" And he hung up the phone. I was born in Macon, Georgia. I was born into a home of violence. My birth mother suffered years of abuse at the harms of my father. Broken bones, bruises on her face and arms, threats with the use of a firearm. Perhaps because of the abuse she suffered, my mother inflicted the same upon me and her other children. We've come to understand that untreated trauma begets trauma often. We conceptualize this as generational trauma. So as a child, I was severely beaten and emotionally abused. My mother would withhold food, isolate me from my siblings, and on one occasion, she attempted to drown me in a tub. While she was never given any mental health diagnosis, I've wondered if she indeed had untreated mental health conditions. The research suggests that there's a connection between physical abuse and mental health. So my birth mother was hurt physically and likely mentally. And now imagine that being compounded with the dilemma of not knowing where to get help. She did not have access to legal resources. There was no one to tell her about protection orders. She did not have someone to help her understand custody rights, the possibility of spousal and child support. She did not have the information that could have given her confidence that she and her children could actually survive, independent of my father, so that she could leave those abusive circumstances. She didn't have a civil Gideon. There is no case that told her, you are facing issues of such consequence to your rights to life, liberty, and dignity that the law requires an attorney assist you. When my mother finally left my father, she came to Washington State. So if you look at a map, Georgia, Washington, makes sense, right? When we study survivors of domestic violence, we learn that many are forced to sever all ties in order to escape. Speaking to this, Kathy Reed, when she was the executive director of the Family Abuse Center in Texas, she said, sometimes they escape with nothing, no driver's license, birth certificates, marriage licenses, immunization records, social security cards. They walk away from their cars, their health insurance, family pictures, their beloved pets and animals. Sometimes they are just glad to be alive with nothing. And I add to this, sometimes they have to leave behind their children. My mother had to leave us behind. Victims so often leave without access to legal guidance that could help them secure housing, financial assistance, employment, or custody of their children, which is everything else they are also worried about in the middle of fearing for their lives. Yet there be no civil Gideon, no legal case that says you are facing issues of such consequence to your rights to life, liberty, and dignity that the law requires an attorney to assist you. Civil legal aid is not a luxury. Safety or continued victimization, homelessness or stability, despair or hope, save myself or leave my children. These are the tragic dichotomies. So, within that tragic dichotomy, she left, and she left her children. But unfortunately, like many survivors, she left one abusive situation only to become involved with another. This new partner struggled with substance abuse and became violent when he drank. The World Health Organization once estimated that roughly 55% of domestic abuse perpetrators were drinking alcohol prior to their assaults. Now, in addition to his drinking, my mother's new partner was also a predator. At 13 years old, I didn't know the word pedophile, so I did not have the language to describe the behavior of a grown man who wanted to touch a child. I simply knew he was unsafe. But to her, I think he presented as safe. After all, he gave her financial stability. He gave her housing stability. He helped her to get her children from Georgia to Washington. And yeah, well, he beat her, but it wasn't as severe. So sadly, by her dysfunctional logic, his touching within certain limits wasn't too harmful. But slowly, what initially presented as safe to her, she came to understand was harmful. It was abusive, just in a different form. But by then, she couldn't leave. She had nothing of her own. It was all in his name. Yet there be no civil Gideon, no case law that stood for the principle that she was facing issues of such consequence to her right to life, dignity, and safety that the law was required to give an attorney. So no one there to explain her options, no one there to tell her that she would not have to stand alone in court. So we continued to stay. Knowing that it wasn't safe for me to be there, without words, my mother and I developed this routine. After school, I would hang out mostly at the SeaCac airport until around 12 midnight. And then I'd call to ask her, is it safe for me to come home yet? One night I came home too soon. My mother hurried me into a back room and whispered, be quiet until he leaves. From behind the closed doors, I could hear the yelling, the slaps, the banging. I heard his son, who was around the same age, come in, and he yelled, take your ass to the room. His son came into the room, and we sat crisscross applesauce. We were quiet and scared. The next moment, he came into the room with a gun in his hand. He closed the door. He turned off the lights. I remember hearing a clicking noise of the gun being cocked. We were frozen in fear, and it seemed like forever. We sat there terrified until finally we heard him open the door and leave. In the dark, we scrambled for the clothes that we could find and climbed out of the window and fled. 2 children, scared. No idea of how to survive, and at that moment, we did not know how to access legal protection. We didn't know how to access emergency shelter. We didn't know how to navigate systems intended to protect children experiencing abuse. It was late at night. The bus number 174 had stopped running, so we walked along Pacific Highway from about 208th Street to South Center, if you're familiar with that area. I eventually made my way to the Department of Social and Health Services. It was called DSHS back then. I went there because my birth mother had previously taken me there before, and I'd been placed in a foster home. It's a red brick building at the bottom of 23rd and Rainier in Seattle. It was after hours, the door was locked. I spoke to a woman through the intercom. I told her I did not have a place to go. The woman told me that technically I hadn't been abandoned yet, so there was nothing they could do. I ended up on a Metro bus. I headed to downtown Seattle. I knew that the route between downtown Seattle and South Federal Way was one of the longest bus rides I could take, so I rode that 174 back and forth. During the short few hours in the early morning when it didn't run, I would get off at the SeaTac airport and wait there until it resumed. I mean, who would know if I wasn't traveling? I remember well that on one of those long rides, I met a kind woman who would offer me shelter. So I went home with a total stranger. Now, this exposed me to other vulnerabilities, and that's a whole other discussion about youth and trafficking and increased vulnerabilities for some of our LGBTQIS plus communities, and particularly the youth. But I was lucky in many ways. The stranger that I went home with turned out to be a safe person, and so was her husband. They did as much for me as they could. Cheryl Blankenship. She offered me shelter in a small trailer that she shared with her husband. They were struggling themselves, trying to access systems and resources, landlord-tenant issues with unresolved maintenance requests for the trailer, the need for medical advocacy and Social Security benefits. Yet, there being no civil Gideon, no case that told them you are facing issues of such consequences to your right to life, liberty, and dignity that the law requires an attorney to assist you. I ended up leaving Cheryl's home because her husband became more ill and they could not take care of me anymore. I remember crying and asking her, what am I gonna do now? She told me, just keep knocking. And just like I opened the door, someone else will too. Those words stayed with me. I'm thinking about those words right now in this very moment because that is what civil legal aid organizations do every day. You help open doors. Doors that systems have too often kept shut. Doors of safety, doors of housing, doors of protection, doors of justice. So I kept knocking. I eventually ended up at a youth home in Ballard. United Indians La Batea Youth Home was established in 1992 by founder Bernie White Bear. May he rest in peace. White Bear recognized that Native American youth were disproportionately represented in Seattle's homeless community, and he established La Batea, meaning the transformer. And he wanted to transform the situation of homeless youth so that they could be provided with transitional environments that allowed us to move from homelessness to permanent housing and self-sufficiency. So I stayed at La Batea, and that is ultimately where I met the lady that I would come to call my mommy, my greatest mentor, the late Julie Zarelli, or Miss Z, as everyone called her. By the way, I have 7 children. All 7 of them are named after Miss Z. Miss Z was a counselor at an alternative high school called Middle College, which used to be on the campus of Seattle Central Community College. She pieced together my transcripts and determined that with all the movements I had done as a homeless teen, I'd been to about 11 or 12 different schools between middle and high school. With her guidance, I graduated from high school and was accepted into the University of Washington. When I entered the University of Washington, I was still residing in a transitional living home for homeless teenagers. In fact, my problems had been compounded because I had become a pregnant teenager and was now in the middle of an abusive relationship. So I was again rendered homeless because I could not remain in the same shelter because it was not a shelter for pregnant or parenting teens. Eventually, I was able to enter a transitional living home organized by Friends of Youth. Homeless, pregnant, trying to escape a violent relationship, I had the challenge of navigating our complicated family law system, and I, like so many, could not afford an attorney. Speaking to the crisis of the lack of civil legal aid, the Washington Supreme Court commissioned an update of the 2003 Civil Legal Needs Study. It was published in 2015, and among its findings, people of color, survivors of sexual assault and domestic violence, persons with disabilities, and young people between the ages of 15 to 21 experienced substantially greater rates of civil legal problems than their counterparts. The study also found that the top 5 problems for which low-income people most often seek help are tied to housing, family and domestic problems, financial challenges, and healthcare and disability-related issues. So this study reflects my own experience in the legal system. I was in an abusive relationship. I was trying to leave, and I had nowhere to go. I had no idea what rights I had. I didn't know how to navigate the custody arrangements, protection orders, parenting plans. And yet, there I was, by myself, trying to navigate the complicated family law court system as a pro se party as I sought a protective parenting plan and a domestic violence protection order. I knew when his hands were around my neck as we were holding our infant child that I had to leave. Yet I lacked access to meaningful legal guidance. And that matters because trauma is compounded when people are forced to navigate complicated legal systems alone. What ensued was a long and continuous proceeding, restraining orders, competing 191 arguments, parenting plans, contempt motions, repeated court appearances. The legal system itself felt impossible to understand. The forms were unintelligible. The wait for the hearings were often long, but my hearings felt rushed and quick. The courtroom space, cold and intimidating. I was a number on a full docket. At every step of the way, I felt disadvantaged because I did not have a lawyer and did not know how to navigate the legal system. Sometimes, I even felt ridiculed by the court for my ignorance of the process. In fact, it was how I was treated by our legal system that made me want to enter the legal profession and become a lawyer. The judges that I appeared before, hopefully none of you are in the room. Actually, hopefully you are. You were dispassionate and distant, detached and dismissive. Yet there be no civil Gideon, no case law that told me you are facing issues of such consequence to your right to life, liberty, and dignity that the law requires an attorney to assist you. I would eventually be assisted by an attorney who would charge me a sliding fee, but that was with me doing much of the drafting of the documents for her to review, and then she would appear at the hearing to argue. Can you imagine what that paperwork looked like? This is why civil legal aid matters. This is why access to civil legal aid matters. Organizations like the Eastside Legal Assistance Program stand in the gap for individuals and families who would otherwise face legal crisis alone. Organizations that provide civil legal aid, law firms that provide pro bono services, solo practitioners that perform pro bono legal work. Say that again, pro bono legal work. It's a word. Do you know that the people who need the services the most don't even know to call it pro bono legal work? We don't know what we're asking for. You help survivors secure protection. That's the work that you do. You help families facing eviction remain housed. You help parents protect their children. You help immigrants and seniors and workers and vulnerable community members understand their rights and access justice. Legal aid lawyers and legal navigators are often the first people who truly explain the system in human terms. In the plain language I wish our plain language forms actually had. When I practiced as a lawyer myself, I continued to witness how desperately these services were needed. But you are guiding people through some of the most frightening and vulnerable moments of their lives, helping people understand systems that were never designed to be easy, helping to ensure that access to justice is not reserved for only the privileged, reminding people that their stories matter. Now today, I've shared some very personal experiences with y'all. You're like, wow, she's a judge? Isn't it election time? She's telling people this? Absolutely. Absolutely. I do so because our experiences allow us to understand the material conditions and realities of those who come before us. I share those experiences because it allows us to have a deeper understanding of the people that we are working with. It allows for compassion and allows others to come from the shadows where they might languish and die. That is the work of the Eastside Legal Assistance Program. You help bring people from the shadows to stand in the center where they can be seen and heard. You are fighting to preserve the humanity of the families that you are standing with as they walk through financial debt crisis, healthcare and medical access issues, housing and eviction proceedings, immigration and employment matters, the procedural nightmare of veteran benefits, discrimination cases, domestic violence, and so much more. You are the armor that secures and protects the integrity of our legal system by working to ensure that a system is indeed a system to which we all have access, especially those who are vulnerable and those who are most in need. So you may not hear it as often as you should or in the moment that you should, particularly when you're working those long hours at your regular jobs and doing pro bono work. But I hope that you hear it loudly and clearly today. The work that each of you are doing, the work that you are supporting, it makes a difference. I am your proof it makes a difference. So many communities and families are vulnerable to the precarious nature of this system, but you are standing with them. You're advocating for them. You are the safekeepers of their humanity. You be the cultivators. You be the stewards. You be the precious guardians of their Sybil Gideon that is yet to be. Thank you.
Yes, please, let's show our deep appreciation for Judge Andrea Jarmon. Whoa, I'm going to have to take a deep breath. That was powerful. That was real. And you know what? I am not grateful for what you went through, but I am grateful that you sit on the bench. And I'm so grateful that, yes. And I am so grateful that someone sitting on the bench, your practice is informed by the very similar and same experiences as those standing before your bench. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I'm just moved by your power. Thank you. Thank you. Wow. If you are as moved by what you have heard as I am, then I'm going to guess you did some equally powerful giving during that time. Let's take a peek, shall we? Let's see how our fundraising progress is going. Let's look. Oh, what do you know? Look at that. Look at that. Yes. So check it out. I told you that we needed to raise $50,000 in the room in order to unlock a challenge gift of another $20,000. Well, you have raised more than $50,000 so far in this room. So we have raised $198,000 so far because we get that $20,000 challenge grant. So we know that the big goal, thank you, by the way, Wen and Thomas and Stephen and everybody who is demure and doesn't like credit. Thank you. We appreciate your gifts so much. Now, remember the big goal, $225,000, and I think we're going to achieve it. So remember, the giving doesn't stop when we leave this room. Remember your corporate matches. Remember your DAFs. Remember to tell your employers what you've done if they match your good work. So we would like to spend some time leaning into gratitude before we send you on your merry way this evening. And to that end, let's bring to the stage ELAP's board president, Pam Anderson.
Good morning. Thank you, Sasha. Let's give a big round of applause to our wonderful MC, Sasha Summer Cousineau. Thank you for bringing a lot of energy and fun early this morning for us. I also want to thank Red Element Studios for the incredibly moving video, and to thank Christine and Evan for the time and the emotional energy they gifted to us. Thank you, Andrea, for showing us what the work of an ELAP staff attorney actually looks like. The grit and the heart it takes really puts everything into perspective for us. Judge Jarmon, your words were inspiring and uplifting, reminding us all why we are committed to justice. And I want to personally thank the ELAP staff team, led by Jerry Crone, for the hard work they do every day. Let's give them a hand. On behalf of the Board of Directors of ELAP, I want to express my deepest gratitude to all of you for your incredibly generous support today. When you support ELAP, you aren't just making a donation. You are helping us create a foundation of stability for people in our community. By investing in this organization, you are ensuring that when our neighbors face a legal crisis, they have an expert in their corner. I've been actively involved with the ELAP board for 6 years, and I was an ELAP volunteer before that. As you know, the needs of vulnerable people and families in our community are increasing at a breakneck pace. I'm proud of the ELAP staff and volunteers that are making a big difference in the lives of so many people in need. And I'm so grateful that each of you chose to invest a part of your day learning more about ELAP and showing your support for this important work. This is what it looks like when we are rising together for justice. Thank you for making this work possible and for believing in a more just future for all of us.
Round of applause for Pam, please. And Pam, don't go anywhere. I want your help. Will you help with the raffle draw? All right, okay. Make some noise if you purchased a raffle ticket. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, so we have 3 fun prizes. You don't have to come to the stage to get them. Head on to item check or to registration to pick them up. Yeah, head on out to where you checked in to pick them up. And now, I don't know if you know this, but it's written on a tablet of the auctioneer, some ancient lore somewhere. I really actually cannot do any raffle drawing ever without a drum roll. So give me a little drum roll, please. All right. The person who purchased a raffle ticket and is going to win the premium wine package is, thank you for your help, Pam, Gloria Johnston. Gloria, you win the wine. All right, and next, how about a drum roll for the dinner and overnight getaway? Thank you, Jerry, over on Whidbey Island, and it's going to be Colette Vogel. Congratulations, Colette. And this is the final drawing, so you know what to do. This is the Seattle Sports and Icon package. It's going to... They're sticking together. I don't know what's wrong with my hands. Here we go. All right. Hannah Hamilton. Congratulations, Hannah. And a round of applause for Pam. Thank you so much for your help. And just, you know what? You all have been wonderful today. I want to thank you all for joining us this morning. You did such great work in this room. I want to remind you the fundraising doesn't stop here. If you like to give via check, go ahead and drop that off on your way out the door. Remember your employer matches. Remember all the ways to give. And if you're in conversation with somebody over the next day or two and you're like, you really should be supporting this work, I think you're ripe for supporting this work, share the QR code or the link with them. And with that, I would like you to give yourselves a round of applause for being generous this morning, for being part of community. My name is Sasha Summer Kuzno. It has been an honor to serve as your MC. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you on behalf of ELAP. Thank you. And we'll see you here again next year. Have a good day, everyone.